Geopolitics in Conflict live. So we are so excited to be here, guys. Friday comes here so fast, so quick, Ross. I mean, it was just last Friday we were doing the other.
Wasn't that yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, hold it. That was last week, right?
Indeed. So, well, we're gonna have a great conversation. Now, first of all, we want to thank you always for your support and so forth. But we want to let you know that this time around, and maybe next time, we're not gonna be doing answering questions. The reason being, our producer Elizabeth is not here, so we, in order to avoid any technical glitches and so forth, we decided, you know what? Just keep those questions. I'll be happy to answer them in the comment later on. But at the same time, when we do the Q&A next week, hopefully, when she's back, then we'll answer this question. Highly technical. Thank God for Elizabeth.
Right.
Yes, I give her credit. Without her, now we're experiencing this one here. So without further ado on this one, I just wanted to give you a heads up on that one. So we're not gonna do the Q&A this time around. So we'll talk for about 40 minutes or so, just to provide you insight into the topic we're gonna talk about today. So before we move into the headlines, Ross, I'd like you guys to make sure to check us out at geopolitics.locals.com. I happen to be posting videos there, truly some analysis that I can go more into depth and I can talk openly and freely. So you might want to check it out. So when you have time. So also remember to check out our membership at geopoliticsinconflict.com. And remember to follow me on Twitter at @the_waralu. So, all right, without further ado, before we start, there's a request from one of our viewers who is no longer going to be watching our stuff, something personal on his end. And he requested from me personally yesterday when he sent me a note to share this with you guys because and this one has to do with a comment he received regarding one of our videos and so forth. So here is what he said, and I quote to you guys. I received the most heartfelt comment from one of your viewers. His name is Stephen Turner of NSW, New South Wales, so Australia. And I would like to ask you whether you could give him a special thanks from one of your program. So to Stephen Turner, I say thank you on behalf of the entire team here for being civil, for commenting for Robert Hill. And Robert Hill, he's been one of our followers for quite a while. We admire his comments and so forth. And if I could just share briefly his last word with us here, he said, and I quote, Geopolitics in Conflict Show. Professor Ross, Professor David, and linguistics specialist Elizabeth, firstly, thank you for your kind words, but I rather think that the world is a better place because of people such as yourselves. It is in fact yourselves and your program that truly gave me such inspirational vision for a bettering world. It is in fact yourself that will miss you. And further, there is still so much that I feel I need to do and much information to share. And I think you underestimate greatly the growing number of people around the world that admire and respect your unique abilities of being able to cause people to pause and think deeply about what is truly happening in the world around them. With your rapidly growing numbers of people worldwide that respect you, that respect your well-established reputation for your honesty and integrity, that 70 million subscribers may well become a reality of its own accord. Finally, I don't need luck, just sheer determination to try and emulate the outstanding, fine example of polite respect that you each have for all of our fellow human beings. As always, with the greatest. So that's from Robert Hill. So we want to say thank you to him in case he sees this one. All right.
Our intention is being fulfilled, at least with one person.
Exactly. And he's been genuine about it, Ross, all the way, because I've been reading those comments. So
what about, well, we selected 3 of hundreds of topics to talk about today.
Exactly.
Let's start with one that's really fun and tragic all at the same time. In the United Kingdom, Queen Elizabeth has stripped Prince Andrew of all of his titles and all of his duties.
It is about time, Ross. This is one of those headlines that just came up this morning. Yeah, he's no longer, Andrew will not be called His Royal Highness anymore. It's done. And you all know why. This one has to do with Epstein, because the Epstein case is, if you only guys know who's involved in that kind of what was going on with using the teenagers and sexual assaults and all that stuff. I mean, some names, unbelievable. So Prince Andrew was one of them. Plus, the reason why the Queen stripped all his stuff because of his legal entanglement here in the U.S.
Yeah.
So that is the reason why. So in case you run to him, don't call him Your Royal Highness.
China is agreeing with the United States and is withdrawing oil from its reserves.
Indeed. Whoever thought that that China and the U.S. would not communicate? They did indeed on this one here. That has to do, you all know, depending on what part of the world you're in, I am sure you have noticed the oil price is going up. It's energy price. Well, finally, this one came out publicly now that indeed China and the United States have reached an agreement regarding the increase of the strategic reserves. Now, there is only one thing China didn't do. It did not disclose by how much. Because those are usually, you don't point fingers at China here. All countries, they don't want to disclose. Like, for example, for us in the United States, we never knew how much Saudis have in reserve oils.
A very well kept secret.
Yeah, they kept secret. So,
which is kind of amazing in its own right that they were able to keep it a secret so long.
Well, you can see why.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, they have to keep that one. So, but the point in this is that China and the U.S. are talking about this particular point.
One of the things I've heard many times is that economically, China and the United States are joined at the hip. Do you think the United States can reasonably disengage from China?
Oh, yeah. What do you guys think? Can the U.S. disengage from China economically? Yeah, I don't think so. I did a video on it yesterday on locals, and I detailed some stuff, and I'll share part of it. And the reason why the U.S. cannot disengage, this one has to do, by the way, just to let you know, the White House just came up with a conventional plan regarding how we're going to proceed with China. Well, we all know, because now President POTUS is not deviating from the President Trump's policy when they imposed tariffs on China. So China's saying, sure, let it go the way it is. As a matter of fact, despite all this, China made $80.2 billion. No. It just doesn't make any sense because we need that market.
I have to let, there's so much that goes on here. It's just ridiculous. Okay, so all this is going on, and imports from China to the United States have
increased. Indeed. So despite what you guys hear, that now the U.S. is gonna tackle the economy of China and impose more, it just hypes. Because here is the thing: for us Americans, at least for me personally, I speak for myself. Will I go and buy a pair of Nike for $400? Heck no, I will not.
And the answer is, of course not.
Yeah, because average Americans cannot afford now. The prices are already going up. So why? Because the administration, and doesn't matter Republican or Democrats, they both two faces of the same coin. This saying we're going to bring manufacturing to America. That's nonsense. It's a lie. They're not going to do that because the cost of labor is going to jump to the roof, which means what? Companies will have to push the prices up. So Americans cannot afford that. Inflation is already up to the roof. So, yeah.
I read a great story.
Mm-hmm.
This married couple in their mid-20s said, we want new bicycles because we love bicycling. And so they said, but we're only buying American-made stuff. We're adamant. We look at everything. And so they looked at American-made bikes at $429 each.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
They looked at the comparable Chinese one, which was $115 each. They walked out of the store feeling bad about having just saved several $100s. They said, the price was so different that it didn't make sense to buy the $429 bikes.
Exactly. And that just stems from the common sense, Ross.
Yes.
The sheer size of the Chinese market cannot be ignored. It can't.
Another consideration is how many big businesses have heavily invested in China. You think they're going to just throw all that investment away?
No.
Or they're going to start taking a bunch of money out of China and keeping it, bringing it back to the U.S.?
You're right. As a matter of fact, I found out that the big corporations in the U.S. are pushing against the White House approach to behind the scenes. What the administration says versus what the business community wants. We all remember the last trip for Tim Cook to China. Elon Musk opening a factory in China. So come on. All right. Shall we move to our topic, Ross?
Let's do it. The Ukraine. No, we haven't heard of that for a while.
Oh yeah, no. Is that a new topic, Ross?
It's a new topic, right? Well, the popular view here is that the Ukrainian people are really preparing for a big conflict with Russia and NATO supporting them and going, what is going on here?
It is a lot. And here is to break it down for you guys in a simple terminology so you can understand. As a matter of fact, I will be doing a video this afternoon on locals because I can talk more freely there than I can do here. And you all know why. We don't need to beat the dead horse on that. Here's the thing. There were 3 meetings that took place within a span of a week. As a matter of fact, within a span of 4 days.
Yeah.
The first one between the US and Russia. The second one between NATO and Russia. And the third one, which just took place yesterday, which the one I'm going to do the analysis about in the locals in detail, was with the Russia and OSCE, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, which is basically another word for saying another door for the US. Because what all three shares that is the US, that's the one taking the lead on the conversation. And here is the thing about those conversations. They were, of course, inconclusive, which means what? They have reached nothing. It was just hot air. And the meeting yesterday, what's interesting, I was watching that carefully, Ross, is that the message that was emanating from both 3 meetings is almost the same. Only different wording is used, but the content is the same. That's what I found very interesting.
What would you say the bottom line of that content is?
The bottom line to that is let's keep pushing forward. We are not going to respond to Russia's security and strategic interest concerns because all of the 3 meetings didn't address the key fundamental question. And you know what the key fundamental questions is? For them to respond to Russia's request regarding its security concerns that Russia demand answers in writing. And none of them answer that. None of them address that. The US said, we will get back to you next week. NATO says, we will have to conduct second round of talks. And the OSCE said, Europe needs to prepare for war. So we all can see where this is going. Because there was no intention on part of the West of resolving the issue.
You take a look at the presentation, that is the sternness in Vladimir Putin's presentations. The guy looks remarkably serious about, you do this and we are going to go to military intervention.
And I do believe that, Russ, because now the argument the West is making is that, well, who is Russia to be dictating to other sovereign states to do whatever? Well, wait a minute. If the West is making this argument, how come we went back to our word when we gave them the Russians, the Soviet Union, as it was disintegrated, that we will not expand eastward over an inch, and yet we went back in our word. So what do we expect Russia to do? Welcome us with open arms? I mean, you are stationed, you, the West, NATO, EU, whatever, you are stationing your troops near the Russia's border. How do you think they're going to feel? I mean, I always give that example, Ross, for us in the US. Can you imagine Russia or China establishing some small naval bases, one in Florida, one in San Diego? How do you think we're going to feel?
Well, we might laugh about it, but
I know what you mean.
I mean, this whole situation is ludicrous, except who benefits from keeping this conflict alive? And we keep coming back to that theme of who's benefiting from this. Are you and I benefiting? Are the American people benefiting from a potential conflict in some part of the world where most people can't even find it on a map?
Exactly. Most Americans have no clue where Ukraine is.
Right.
And it becomes the question that what is our strategic interest in Ukraine? What do we have to gain from all this? Because here is the thing that it's coming up in the media. I did see it in the mainstream media here. Congress right now is working on sanctions for Russia. They're going to sanction Putin. And within that legislation, there is a section there that is allocating, guess how much? $500 million is allocated to Ukraine in military support. Once again, if you are an American viewer watching this, you're going to ask yourself, what's in it for us? Why my tax money is going to some far land defending some obscure interests that I have no clue what they are all about, and it have nothing to do with my welfare, economic, social, political, whatsoever, right here at home.
So it's deficit spending. That money certainly could be going to the hundreds of thousands of people who are homeless in the United States, or other really good local causes that would benefit the American people. Instead, it's being shipped to a country that has the reputation of being one of the most corrupt in the world.
And second thing for us, where are we getting the $500 million from? It becomes the question of, we're going to just keep printing? Well, we all know what it means. The more you print, the weaker you make your currency.
And the higher the prices of every commodity,
which is already up.
Which the one figure I saw was 9.5%. Another figure I saw was 15% inflation.
And you know what the government's saying? It's 6.2.
Oh, they're telling us the truth?
The truth. You're right.
I got it.
I went to a grocery store yesterday. I went to buy some. I was, I'm not surprised because I'm aware of at least, but I was surprised in a way that, I remember this last year, how much it was. All of a sudden, just like, and this is where we ought to ask the question of, why the government is getting into it. What are we going with this antagonizing the Russians for? Because a war is not going to be pretty against Russia. I mean, let's face it.
No matter how limited it is, it's going to be ugly. And it could be catastrophic for the species.
Yeah. And guess who's going to be hammered the first? Europe. For us, the US, we are far out. Europe is going to be. And this is why I believe, and this is my personal opinion, guys, I believe Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky, he stated 2 days ago, that was, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, on Wednesday, he stated that, and I quote, because I remember it, he said, we prefer that this problem will be resolved diplomatically. End of quote.
Okay, so that raises another big question. If that's what he wants, is he really just a puppet? I think he said what was really reasonable, actually being reasonable. But will the puppet master say, no, we need to continue the aggression, continue the disharmony, and run the risk of pushing Russia into a war?
You got it, Ross. It's because, first of all, just for you to know, the talks that were held between all those three entities, EU, NATO, US, and Russia, Ukraine was not invited. What does it tell you right there?
Puppet.
That means the decision is not made in Kiev. The decision is made in Washington. Second thing you might want to consider or think about is this. And again, this is my personal opinion. That's just my own observation, the way I see the trends. And given that I wrote the book about Russia, I did the research about what's going on in Ukraine way back and how all this fits within the big puzzle. Here's the thing. I believe that the Ukraine president came to realize this is getting into some heated area where we're going to be pushed over the cliff. and NATO or US ain't gonna come and rescue us. And he is using history as an example, especially with two, Moldova and Georgia, but mainly Georgia. You all know, I don't know whether you know the story of Georgia or not. A couple of years ago, Mikhail Saakashvili was saying, "Oh, I'll challenge the Russians. I'll take on the Russians." The West were pushing him into that direction. I know what you mean, Ross. It's laughable.
I know how the story ends.
Yeah. So after that, the Russians sent their military, took over within 3 days. The first shot was fired. Saakashvili was like, "Where's NATO? Where's the US?" And he realized, "Oh my gosh, they're not coming to rescue me.
I'm on my own."
On my own. And that's exactly what happened. Because he wasn't smart enough. Yeah, he's a president. You give him the respect, you give him the, the protocol, whatever. But he wasn't smart about understanding the strategic reason as to why, if you go that route, Russia's not going to allow it. He didn't understand that. So when the first shot was fired, he realized, oh, they're not coming to my rescue. But NATO and the US is not going to risk a nuclear war with Russia to save you. And I think, and again, my personal opinion, that Zelensky of Ukraine realized is this, because it's the same scenario that played back in Georgia is playing right now in Ukraine. And he's not willing to risk it. So despite what you hear us about people preparing for war in Ukraine, yes, there are, but Europe has to save face.
3 days for Georgia. Wow.
And that's all it takes. Yeah. Now here's a question for you, Ross. From a psychology perspective, what do you think if you are to go now? Let's say you are a king for the day, and you go to Ukraine and conduct a survey to find out the temperature, the psychological temperature of the people in Ukraine. What do you expect?
I expect them to be fearful. I expect them to really want peace with Russia. I mean, you take a look at the geography, you say, they're our neighbors. Half the people in our country speak Russian. And what they're seeing is, a number of them are going to remember World War II.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to say, that was a tragedy that was beyond belief in terms of how much it hurt us. Mm-hmm. We don't want a repeat performance of that. Let's make peace with these guys. And so fear is the number one thing they're up against.
Fear will be so.
Yeah.
And we all know what fear does to people.
It paralyzes.
It paralyzes you. Yeah. I guess that's something we are witnessing here in our own country on a different topic altogether. So yes, right. Fear can paralyze you. So and this is what I see. Those talks are nothing but a smoke screen. In my opinion, NATO and the US and EU is toothless anyway. The European Union is powerless. They can't stand on their feet. So they're going to do what the master said you need to do. It's like Britain.
Yeah.
UK, what can the UK do on its own? Except if the US says, no, don't do it or do it. So it's the same thing. So the EU is kind of just to be in a picture, shall we say. The question is, as to how far we're going to keep pushing this envelope, because it is my belief that Russia will react militarily. They are not going to allow, because if they do allow Ukraine and Georgia become NATO members, you're talking about the western side of Russia, it's over.
Yeah.
Because that's what NATO is going to do. They're going to put the military, they're going to put the assets there, and it's over. So, and Russia's it's a security concern for them, and rightly so. We're not defending Russia here, by the way, guys.
As we've looked at this over the many months, I've really not seen any evidence that Russia is looking to expand into its former satellite nations.
No, they're not.
Matter of fact, Vladimir Putin came right out and said that the Soviet model was a failed model from the beginning, and that doesn't make any sense in 2000. And that was 2021. Yeah. And so he at least his public statements were, we don't want that empire again.
Exactly.
And so this is all contrived. The evidence I have is it's all contrived by the United States and the West.
Yeah, it's almost like the same thing. Not to change topics here, but just to highlight another example, what just took place in Kazakhstan.
Oh boy.
What was taking place in Taiwan? What took place in Hong Kong? It's kind of like, why? Why are we doing this nonsense stuff?
And we have such a long history of the United States doing this kind of thing.
And you will think it will end. Enough is enough. We got enough issues here.
Oh,
Why are we? And this is how broken our system is. Washington is broken. Make no bone about it. It's the truth. They're broken. So, and here you are, you in the United States in this case, we are wanting to conduct diplomatic talk with the Russians and preparing sanctions.
I read one report that said that the Congress is almost universally supporting real aggressive action against Russia. They're going, these people are not representing me.
Yeah, they're not. But you know why, Ross? It's because you want to maintain the eternal enemy to justify the military spending. That's the bottom line to it. So if you are an American viewer here, this is the reality that you need to understand. It's because our tax money is going into this nonsense, this stuff that have nothing to do with our interest right here at home. And that's always been the case, because why are we going in far lands creating those turmoils? Let's as I always say, let's fix our own democracy here. If we have democracy, let's deal with it here. So you see in all this turmoil. So, and what shocks me the most, Russ, is this morning I found out when I was reading a foreign press, in a foreign language, and what shocks me the most was the statement made by the foreign minister of Poland. Yeah, Zbigniew Rao, ROA or RAO, something like that. And his statement is, Europe should prepare for war. I mean,
you take a look at the geographical location of Poland, and it's perfect for armies to run back and forth over them and trample everything in its path. It has been the middle ground for war after war after war. And then the Polish government is now saying, we need to be prepared for war. Be prepared to be run over yet again.
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, because Poland will be the first. Will be the first to go. You're talking about hypothetically. I don't see that going that direction, but hypothetically, a major military conflict. Who's going to go first? Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, this close by. Then Ukraine. Of course, because Russia's going to just walk in.
Yeah,
that's it. Take over and move. They already moved their. They moved the two main assets. Those are offensive weapons. Two main assets. One of them is nuclear missiles, and second is a nuclear submarine. So usually in the military tactics, when you move assets like those, you are prepositioning yourself. Should you get the orders to move forward, then you have your assets in place.
But David, I think the world is relatively safe. They've only got 5,500 nuclear devices.
Yeah, that's nothing, right?
That's nothing, right?
Which country we have to worry about the most with all that. So, and this is why we wanted just to talk to you today, guys, about this one, because I'm seeing what the media is reporting and the narrative, how it is distorted. The facts, it's I won't say the complete lies. What I'm saying is, you can personally, for me, I can see the manipulation of it. I just can see it.
Is any one of the major news outlets have lost their credibility?
Oh yeah, they're gone, and it's moving into that direction. So, but this is why we decided. You know what? I know you probably heard about what's going on in Ukraine, but you probably did not hear the backstory of why. And this is the why. The why is because the West will have to justify, first of all, in the US, the military spending. In the EU, the solidarity among the members, and for NATO is the relevancy. That is the reason why. And Russia provides them, rather, not create, but provides them, meaning US, EU, and NATO, provides them that opportunity. So the three entities can justify their policies.
As we say over and over again, Why should American citizens be concerned with what's going on there? Or how does this personally affect them right now? Well, to sit at your dinner table and the quality of your food is diminished by 20%, it's affecting you.
All right. And yet you wonder, Ross,
Right.
if it's an average Joe or average Jane is thinking like this.
Or if you're living in a tent on the side of the road in the winter, it's affecting you.
Which we start to see a lot. I drove last time and I saw under the bridge, the tents over there. It pained me to see that in my country.
My son and I were in Seattle. I don't know how many tents we saw on hillsides. I mean, hundreds and hundreds. It was truly tragic.
Yeah. Well, the government is not disclosing that the poverty is going up in the U.S.
You're right.
Big time. Big time.
Big time.
Yeah. And yet, are we seeing any decrease in the defense budget?
Oh, no, matter of fact, didn't we just see another 28 billion going up? Some outrageous.
It's 25.
It was
To be
25.
exact, yes.
Yeah.
25. Went up by additional 25. So it becomes the question, and the whole reason why we're discussing this is, first of all, we want to provide you with the accurate read of what's going on to the best of our abilities. Well, I'm not here to reach out conclusions for you. You reach your own conclusion. And second, we wanted to highlight those kind of issues impact our living here in America, because the standard, it's kind of, and I'm almost starting to question. I have been questioning for the last couple of years. What happened to that American dream? Did we dump it in the dustbin of the history?
Well, as I talk to young people, they don't share the American dream. They don't have the same expectations that I had when I was a young man. I expected the world would be open to me and I could do anything.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
And when you see events like this, policies like this emanating from people who only think for their own good, then and that's when it becomes, are politicians this numb to the concerns of the governed, the concerns of the citizens, the concerns of those they represent?
You ready for this one, David?
Yeah.
Big study, psychological study. Who goes into top levels of government, top levels of industry, and top levels of the military? Sociopaths that have no empathy for other people. Big study, well done, and believable.
How can they live with themselves like that, Ross?
They don't have a problem with it. I know it's astonishing to hear.
I can't.
But they don't care. They don't have something inside of them that says, that person's like me. And so I have to be concerned about them and how they feel and what they experience. They don't have that. Coupled with, re-election campaigns are now outrageously expensive.
Oh my gosh.
And where do the politicians get their funding for this? The big pharma, the military industrial complex, on and on. But it's the big organizations that have the monetary wherewithal to be able to pump money into these campaigns. And so the politicians are constantly kissing up to them.
Yeah.
Not a surprise at all. Follow the money and there it is.
You're absolutely correct. Yeah, just to go back to your point about, they have no problem living with themselves like that. I struggle personally. I teach. I'm a faculty of government stuff. I teach government stuff and I teach international relations. I struggle sometimes when I come back to my home and I ask myself, did I give my students 110% of my efforts? Because I always have to question myself. Did I give them 110% of my efforts? And I feel comfortable enough to say, I think I did. I'm willing to do it the next day.
Yeah.
Again. So that's why I asked, how can they live with themselves like that?
The amazing thing is they have no problem with it. And those, I have helped select for corporations any number of CEOs or high-level administrators. I can't tell you how many of the most qualified candidates were sociopaths.
Wow.
and I've done it a couple of hundred times, so I really know what I'm talking about.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And this is why, that's it. Once again, guys, this is the whole reason why we wanted to address this, because it needs to be addressed from a different perspective, not the standard narrative which the media put out, and mainstream media puts out. And it's just sad where this is, and here it is, just to go back to the topic, guys, here it is. Russia provided those 8 talking points about 4 weeks ago. Still till today, the US and NATO never responded. Still till today, they have not.
Well, the power brokers in Washington, it's not to their advantage to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's to the advantage of the rest of the world, but not to them.
Well, this is why they are miscalculating, because this time around, I don't think so. Putin is bluffing. I do not think so. If they want to try it, they can test the water and see. He is, because here is the thing. To Russia, to Moscow, Putin, whatever, if they don't act, they will never be believed again, ever. The credibility is gone, and that's it. That will now give the opportunity for NATO and West to walk in over. That's my read into if Russia does not react.
We did an analysis of some of Putin's. We didn't do it on air yet, but we're going to.
Yeah.
Of some of his presentations, and there's a concept called congruence. That's when your words, your tones of voice, your body language, over time, continue to give the same clear message.
Yeah.
That man is congruent. That man, it looks like it. What he says, he means it.
Yeah. And I'm sure our viewers will benefit from your analysis on that. Yours and Elizabeth, because you guys are going to do it together,
right?
When she's back, and that will be great. I can't wait to see that, Russ, because I still want to learn from stuff like that, because learning never ends. Not just because you have a PhD, that means that. No, not at all. Learning is a journey, so it never ends. At least for me, I'm sure Russ, is that why you're learning the Chinese language, Russ? Well, and you're doing good at it, by the way.
Yeah,
you're moving at it.
I'm getting there.
I can't wait one day to see you speaking fluently with some journalist of sort that speaks Chinese. So this is just to wrap up this one here, guys, because since we're not going to do the questions, and we don't want to be just talking for the sake of talking, because we don't do that. If we have something of substance, we'll talk about it. Otherwise, we're out of the air. We're out. So that's my belief, and in my opinion. If I have something to share, something of substance, I'll talk. If not, shut my mouth and get out. So, but this is why we wanted to let you know. It's because we want you to understand the dynamics, how things move when it comes down to geopolitics. Because what you are hearing about, at least with what we shared with you, those are the dynamics of geopolitics at play. Because all these movements is nothing but geopolitical moves. That's going to end up who outsmarts who. That is one. So we already saw the example with the Kazakhstan. And by the way, we're going to be releasing a video about that next week. I think on Tuesday. That's when usually we release the video. And just to give you an idea of when it comes down to analyzing what's taking place, you always have to keep in mind, you do not be looking at only that particular geographical area. You have to consider other aspects taking place in other locations, because the what's the word I'm looking for? Interactions, because they interact with each other. So this is how the geopolitical game is played. Russia happens to understand it very well. They are good at it. The US is also good at it, except that for us, we don't have a vision. We don't have a strategy when we approach certain things, because we assume that if we create turmoil, things are going to go our way. Yeah. Well, here is the Kazakhstan example. It backfired. They didn't consider what if this goes wrong. So this is the reason why we wanted to talk about this today, and just to provide you that insight. Just to remind you guys, I will be doing a video on locals. If you can check it out later on, I will be talking this afternoon about that one. So anything to add, Ross, before we go?
Be well.
Yeah, well, we certainly thank you, and we appreciate you guys. I'm sure we always enjoy those Q&As, and we're gonna do them again. It just that's how life goes. Sometimes it's just a reality. So we truly appreciate you. We appreciate your support. It means a lot to us. You know, without you guys, we won't be here. It's because, and I do read the comments. And by the way, put your questions on the comment. I'll get on it this afternoon and answer to the best of my abilities to do that. So to all of you, whatever part of the world you are in, we wish you a good day, a good evening, and we look forward to see you next time. So until then, stay informed. Till next time. Bye-bye.